guys, welcome back to another episode of Codergirl.py. My name is Serenity, aka Codergirl. This is my friend Scooter. Today I'm going to introduce you to comments and Elif statements using Python. Hope you enjoy. Alright, so in my IDE, I have two new folders, comments and Elif. In my comments folder, I have three files, controversial.py, nocomments.py, and withcomments.py. Let's open up nocomments.py first. In nocomments.py, we declare three variables, pepperoni slices, sausage slices, and mushrooms. Pepperoni slices is assigned the integer 5, sausage slices is assigned the integer 3, and mushrooms is assigned the integer 4. Then we declare a variable called total toppings, and which is the result of the arithmetic operation pepperoni slices plus sausage slices plus mushrooms. Then we use an if-else statement to check if total toppings is greater than 10. If it is, we print, wow, that's a lot of toppings. Else, we print, that's not a lot of toppings. Since total toppings will be 12, 5 plus 3 plus 4 is 12, our condition will be true, so our if statement will run, and this program will output, wow, that's a lot of toppings. And when we click the run button, we can see it outputs just as expected. But let's go back to the actual file for a minute and just get an overview of what we're doing. If you looked at this program, or a program like this, you'd be able to tell what it would do. Even if I didn't tell you or show you the result of this program, you should be able to realize that this will print out, wow, that's a lot of toppings. You know what this code does, so you'll be able to understand what this program is doing and what the result will be. But what about someone who doesn't know anything about programming? If they looked at a program like this, they wouldn't understand what's happening, and they wouldn't know what the result would be. And even if you know programming, as your program gets long and complicated, it can be difficult to follow what is actually going on. This is where comments come in handy. Comments are explanations, details, notes, or anything else the programmer wants to show the person looking at the file. A comment is ignored by the compiler, so whatever you add won't affect your program's output. So now let's exit nocomments.py and go to withcomments.py. Withcomments.py has the exact same code as nocomments.py, but you'll see some new English sentences with pound signs or hashtags in front. To make a single line comment, you need a pound sign and then whatever information, explanation, or anything else you want to write. For example, you can see our first comment is pound. Here we declare three variables and assign integers to them. The pound sign tells the compiler that we are declaring a comment, and it tells the compiler to ignore this line because it's not code, it's a comment meant to help humans. Then, because we have the pound sign, we can write whatever we want afterwards. In this case, we explained with these three lines, pepperoni slices equals 5, sausage slices equals 3, and mushrooms equals 4 are doing. If we remove the pound sign, the compiler would think that the comment, here we declare three variables and assign integers to them, is actual code. So the compiler would try to run it as code. However, since this isn't code, it's a human written sentence, the computer would throw an error. This is why it's important to make sure all of your comments start with the pound sign. Now let's focus on withcomments.py as a whole. We've added a ton of new comments that explain what our code is doing. Now, someone who doesn't know how to program would understand what our program or code is actually doing. And because we have the pound signs in front of our explanations, the computer recognizes them as comments, and so it chooses to ignore them. So they won't affect our output. And you see, if we click the run button, you can see that it outputs the exact same thing as it did without the comment. Wow, that's a lot of toppings. So far, we've only covered single line comments, which, if you remember, has a pound sign and then whatever else you want to write after it. However, because we've only covered single line comments, if you wanted to write a big comment or a paragraph explaining something, you need a pound sign before each line. Some people get around this by using triple quotes to make multi-line comments. However, there is some controversy surrounding the usage of triple quotes. Let's go to Codergirl.py to see what I mean. So as you can see, I don't have any code in Codergirl.py, but I have this huge multi-line comment I wrote using triple quotes. Like a single comment, the multi-line comment with triple quotes is ignored by the compiler, so it won't affect our outcome. If I click this run button, you can see the compiler doesn't output an error since our comment is ignored. Because of this, because the compiler ignores the multi-line comment using triple quotes, many people use triple quotes to get around having to put a pound sign before every single line of comment. However, some people argue that the multi-line comment shouldn't be used at all because they can cause errors in your program later on. It is completely up to you whether you want to use triple quotes or not. Just be aware of the controversy surrounding them. You can see that I have links in Codergirl.py that argue for either side, for triple quotes or against them. And I'll put these links in the description so you can check out both sides. As you can see, comments are very useful in programs. They can help non-programmers understand what a program is doing, as well as help programmers follow along our code if it gets too complicated or just really long. And now that we've covered comments, we can move on to Elif statements. If you don't know about if statements and else statements, I suggest you check my previous video that covers if and else statements. The link is in the description below. So let's exit our comments folder and move into our Elif folder. In it, we have two files, Elif.py and Elif1.py. Let's open up Elif.py first. At the beginning of Elif.py, we have a comment explaining what our program will do. Then we declare a variable called myNumber and assign it to the integer 0. Finally, we use an if, elif, else statement to check if my number is greater than 0, equal to 0, or less than 0. An elif statement must be used with an if statement. It can't go by itself. To write an elif statement, you need elif, new line, code. Like an else statement, all code inside the elif statement must be indented. The condition in an elif statement must be a Boolean operation, and an elif statement is placed after the if statement but before the else statement. So as you can see in Elif.py, my elif statement is placed after my if statement but before my else statement. If the elif statements are used to check for other conditions and work like an if statement. If the condition in your if statement is false, rather than head straight for an else statement, the computer will immediately check the elif statement's condition. If the condition is true, the code in the elif statement will run. If the condition is false, the computer will check the next elif statement, or if there isn't another elif statement, the computer will run the code in the else statement. One thing that's really useful about elif statements is that you can have multiple statements or multiple elif statements. However, as you can see in Elif.py, I am only using one. So in Elif.py, the computer will check if my if statement's condition, my number is greater than 0, is true. If the condition is false, the computer will then check my elif statement's condition, my number equals 0. If that condition is false, my computer will go to my else statement and run the code inside. However, if my elif statement's condition is true, the computer will run the code inside my elif statement, which is print my number is equal to 0. Since the variable my number is equal to 0, my elif statement condition will be true. So our program will output my number is equal to 0. And as you can see, when I click the run button, it outputs as expected. Perfect. Now, as I mentioned, you can use as many elif statements as you want. If you head over to elif1.py, you can see a similar program to elif.py. We declare a variable called my number and assign it to the integer 3. Then we use an if, elif, else statement to check for some possible values of my number, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'll notice that we have 4 elif statements. No matter how many elif statements, the computer will always do the exact same thing. It will first check our if statement's condition. If that condition is false, the computer will move to the next elif statement. If that elif statement condition is false, the computer will then move to the next elif statement. Or if there isn't another elif statement, the computer will run the code inside the else statement, if there is one. If any of the conditions are true, however, the compiler will run the code inside and will not check any other elif statements. So even if I had 2 elif statements checking if my number is equal to 0, the computer will not print out my number is equal to 0 twice, since it will stop checking further statements once it reaches the first true condition. So it would only print out my number is equal to 0 once. This was a lot to cover, so feel free to rewatch the video or try some comments and elif statements on your own. In the end, you'll realize just how useful both are. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. This is Codergirl.py signing out.